You are able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namah, Shri Saraswatyai Namah, Shri Gurubhyo Namah, Sadashiva Samarambham, Shankaracharya Madhyamam, Asmadacharya Paryantam, Vande Guru Paramparam, Shruti Smriti Puranam Alayam Karunalayam, Namami Bhagavad Pada Shankaram Loka Shankaram, Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam, Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagwantau Punah Punah. समस्तजनकल्याणे निरन्तं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं कर्वावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति 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 Namaste and welcome all to class 4 of Crest-Jewel, that is Vivekachūḍāmaṇi. In the last um, study class, we touched upon a couple of points, that is the miseries of the unspiritual man, shlokas 4 to 7, the means of attaining wisdom, 8 to 13, the who is actually the fit student and how to become a fit student even before we start on this path or journey, shlokas 14 to 17, and what are the four qualifications of the fit student, which are elaborated from shloka 18 to 30. So these are important qualifications which one need to understand. And today we will be continuing few of those where we started last time. And we will also touch upon Bhakti Yoga, how it is associated on this path if time permits in today's meeting. If not, we will take it in the next one. So we touched upon Shloka 21 last time, but did not do a complete deep dive. 21 states that desire to give up all transitory enjoyments gained through seeing, hearing, and so on, and also experiences gained through equipments ranging from a mortal body to the form of Brahma is called detachment. So, in a sense, there is no desire remaining. So, as you know, we are considering the qualifications who's the fit student. So, in the fit student, there is no desire remaining except the desire to help and guide humanity. So that forms the propelling force. So even walking on this path needs a propelling force. So desire to help and guide humanity is the only propelling force. There is no pull from anything, whether it is material or subtle, like the siddhis or the iddhis or some kind of powers or something. Whether in the mortal human body or whether even in the highest form of Brahma. Remember, it is mentioned that from the smallest atom to Brahma, everything is actually in the manifested plane of duality and it's an illusion. Which means that starting from the human body unto the level or up to the level of Brahma, who is governing all the 14 lokas as the Hiranyagarbha, there is complete detachment. And when we say 14 lokas, you can think of page 200 diagram, the entire page 200 diagram. So the entire page 200 diagram is in secret doctrine, the world or the effect of illusion or Maya. Beyond that apex of the triangle is something which gets into the reality of Paramartha Satya or the ultimate truth. But the whole uh, manifestation from the lowest of the worlds to the highest of the Brahma is illusion. So even if you are in the form of a Brahma, you should be detached, is what Shankaracharya is saying. So the example he gives is that, like one who would feel complete revulsion if a crow's dropping would fall on one's body. Neither you would touch it, nor you would smell it or taste it, but quickly remove it from your body and even go and take bath. So that kind or that level of repulsion arises from the worldly things that the aspirant, the spiritual aspirant, is not even interested to think about anything worldly. Here, we need to be careful. It does not mean abandoning the world, but not having any attachment. So, attachment is a keyword to anything based on knowledge, wherein one is still interacting with and in the world, however, only for the sole purpose of fulfilling their duties and nothing else. They may have nothing to do with anything except performance of their duties. So, in this context, we also see in Bhagavad Gita the related shloka in chapter 2, 55, 55th shloka, which says that when one fully renounces all the desires belonging to the mind and remains contented in the self, that is the higher self, alone through the self, then he is called a man of steady wisdom. And steady wisdom, as per the shloka, is sthita pragna. And further, in this context, there was a great saint, Jnaneshwara, and he had um, written the commentary on Bhagavad Gita. And in this context, Sri Jnaneshwara's commentary on Bhagavad Gita, which is known as Jnaneshwari, um, brings out this idea in a series of inimitable similes, describing the attitude of a man of detachment towards sense objects. And this is pretty graphic. He gives some examples which are very striking and effective. He says that a man of true detachment will run towards sense objects with as much enthusiasm as one would rush out to embrace a dead queen's rotting body, with as much satisfaction as one would decide to quench one's thirst by drinking the pus flowing out of a leopard's wound, and with as much readiness as one would enter a boiling bathtub of molten iron to take a refreshing bath. It is a very powerful way of expressing the idea that where the intellect has come to firm conviction about the hollowness and temporary nature of sense objects, the mind will not gush forth towards all these sense objects with hopes and expectations of satisfaction therein. This sense of detachment that arises from a full application of one's discriminative faculty, that is viveka, is called true vairagya. When this vairagya reaches the highest stage known as tivra vairagya or para vairagya state, based on deep contemplation leading to complete realization of the true temporary nature of Maya, then nothing worldly affects or touches the spiritual aspirant. This is the qualified state which Shankaracharya is referring to. Hence, one who aims at removing ignorance and realizing the higher self needs to develop paravairagya, detachment, as a result of viveka, that is discrimination. That is realizing the difference between Atma and Anatma, which means between self and non self. This is only possible when we, with true knowledge, surrender to the Guru. Now, Guru in this case is our Atman itself. And who are we? We are the personality. So, only then Shama, which we'll see the qualification, is also produced where the mind rests permanently, having found the true purpose of life. Now, um, In this case, Dnyaneshwari also mentions regarding this shloka that, O Arjuna, here, the one thing that comes in the way of the happiness of the self is the strong desires that exist in the mind for the objects of senses. One who is ever contented and whose heart is full of satisfaction, who has completely destroyed the strong desires for pleasure, which makes him fall headlong into the mire of sense objects, and whose mind is absorbed in the bliss of the self. Such a one is a sthita prajna. So, all indication is given for us to become a sthita prajna. So when the spiritual aspirant is trying to become a fit and qualified candidate, he has to become a sthita prajna. And what are the qualities, or what are the things which one needs to target and achieve and practice to become a sthita prajna? The one who has renounced all desires becomes desireless is a sthita prajna. Who does not hate pleasant or unpleasant. He's undisturbed. He does not have any likes or dislikes. Who has restrained his senses? That is, he becomes a master of senses. Full control is there. Performs his duties perfectly, unattached to sense objects. He has risen above the gunas. So we know that all the sheets are the koshas or the upadhis or the vehicles of our seven bodies. Each has got skandhas and each has got gunas. You have the sattvic gunas, you have the rajasic gunas, and the tamasic. So he has risen above the gunas. Risen above the gunas means he's untouched by the modifications and the fluctuations of the gunas, who is completely unattached. Now we'll see what does this mean. Unattached not only in the physical world with the family, things, situations, past, present, future, etc., but also at the level of all the upadhis, that all the bodies. So man is sevenfold. So this unattachment is happening at all the seven levels because the I feeling is there in the physical body, in the astral body, that is the Linga Sharira, in the pranic body, in the kamic body, in the manasic body, and buddhic. So completely unattached means unattached at all seven planes. Always has a calm mind, continuously fixed in the self in all situations. So he's always having that sort of support and basis or foundation as the higher self, full of compassion, sees Atma Tattva in everything and everyone. What does Atma Tattva mean? So, if you do an analysis of what is self and non-self, that is Atma and Anatma, you will realize that everything in this manifested world is temporary, but it exists only because of the fundamental substratum of the Atma. So, everything exists since Atma is providing that energy or the power or the light. It is the fundamental basis. In fact, everything is Atma itself. This is what the Sthita Prajna realizes. A very beautiful example is given here that think of an ocean. Now, this ocean is at certain places calm, at certain places there are waves. There are huge waves, there are small waves, and at certain places there is foam also coming with the waves. Now, the question may be asked whether this wave is the ocean or the wave is different, whether this foam is the wave or the foam is the ocean. The wave periodically arises and then merges back into the ocean. Similarly, a Sthita Prajna sees all objects, all manifestations, everything in this manifested world as a wave. Every human being, every animate and inanimate object is in his mind as a wave. That wave comes and the wave goes. Every thought which arises in your mind is an object. That wave comes and the wave goes. When you interact with a person, you think of that person as a wave of that ocean. You yourself, when a thought arises in your mind, you think of that thought as a wave from that ocean. So when you are moving, let's say you are sitting on a chair, you stand up and you move towards somebody or while performing some activity, you think that you are in an ocean of that Atma, you are a wave which has arisen and you are walking. So, in effect, what you are trying to achieve is that in day-to-day life and all your thoughts, you are having that Atma Tattva at the back of your mind. You are seeing, observing, and trying to comprehend that fundamental substratum in everything. So, that is what leads to the true idea of compassion also. Next, we will see what is the actual state of a sthita prajna. See, consider two people. One is a normal person, any layman around in the world, and one is a sthita prajna. Now, let's say, take a very simple example. Any inputs which are coming from the senses for both people or both persons will go through the senses to the brain to the mind. But there is something very different happening in the case of a sthita prajna, which is not happening in the case of a normal individual. Let's say you are eating food. For example, you take mango. Mango is very delicious, and a normal person takes the best quality of mango, puts it in his mouth, and suddenly there's burst of flavors, and you automatically your mind thinks, "What an amazing fruits! It's so tasty," and all kinds of thoughts come, and then you want to eat more. Similarly, there's a sthita prajna who's sitting next to you. He eats the mango. What happens? He eats the mango because in his mind, he thinks that I am nourishing this instrument, this body. That is my duty. I am not bothered about the taste. I don't care about the taste. Whether it's bland, sweet, sour, spicy, whatever it is, I am just eating because I need to nourish the body. The moment it lands, the mango lands on the tongue of Sthita Prajna, the tongue sends signal to the mind through the brain. But in the case of Siddhar Prajna, it's very interesting to note that his mind is actually dissolved. It is dissolved in the sense it still exists, but it has merged with buddhi. In the case of a normal individual, we have the lower mind or the mind working and the vasanas or the skandhas or the tendencies of the mind working and so on and so forth. And the thoughts arising and the antahkarna is quite active where the feeling of I resides. In the case of Sthita Prajna, the feeling of I is dissolved. There is no I. There is no association with the physical body. And the manas, whether you call it lower, higher, or just the manas, it is merged with buddhi. And buddhi atma, atma buddhi manas rather, is one. So, in the case of a sthita prajna, the signal of good, bad, this or that doesn't even go to the mind, or the mind doesn't care because he is gone beyond the gunas. He- But then, if he has realized and he has gone beyond the gunas, how is it that he is still among us in the physical body? So, for this, the answer is given that because the karma is only related to the physical body. If you really realize who you are, what Shankaracharya is saying, you are not this body. You are none of your bodies. Come out of this delusion. You are the Atman itself. If you are the Atman itself, The shloka says, Na jayate na mriyate, means neither you were born nor you will die. Now, if you are not born, you will not die. If you are not born, there will never be any disease to you. There will be never any harm to you. You are completely apart. If you are completely apart, then what is this body doing? This body is just an instrument. If this body is just an instrument, then in the case of Sthita Prajna, what happens is that the past life karma, before he got realization or removal of this ignorance, there was a lot of karma generated. So remember, karma is only of the physical body. It is not of you, the Atma. So the physical body karma continues to operate in the case of a sthita prajna until it is completely dissipated or is exhausted. But still, he is in the body. So he is in the world, yet he is not of the world. He is unattached. He has raised himself and he has reached a level beyond the gunas. So Shankaracharya is saying, and Bhagavad Gita is also referring to this point, that ultimately when the spiritual candidate starts, they slowly and slowly reach this state of sthita prajna. So the spiritual aspirant need not be 100% sthita prajna at the beginning, but the goal is to reach here. So they are working on this path, and they may have some of the qualifications to start with. That is the seed, and that seed will sprout into this complete full stage or state rather. And then Shankaracharya in his commentary gives couple of other references. There is a reference from Mukti Upanishad, Shloka 2.66, which says, He who does not detach himself from the banner of his own body, what use is the practice of Vairagya? So again and again, it's pointed towards this fact that you are not this body or none of the bodies. Then from Prabha Sutra 128, it says, the flow of desires towards sense object is like the stubbornness of donkeys or buffaloes. Because it's very difficult sometimes to pull the donkey or buffalo, they will go their own direction, and the owner of the donkey will try to pull the donkey in the other direction. Also, how difficult it is to restrain them, even for the calm minded. So, it is admitted, it's accepted that it's not an easy task, but has to be achieved. Just as in this world the fruits of actions perish, so too in the other world merits also perishes. This is reference from the Chandogya Upanishad, section 8, subsection 1, shloka 6. What this means is that sometimes people think that if they evolve, and you consider in this context page 200 diagram of Sacred Doctrine, let's say we are on globe D, and people think, okay, we are in the physical world, and maybe in the future lives we will reach higher realms or higher worlds because we have evolved. That kind of perception also exists. What Shankaracharya says is that whether you are in a lower realm or world, or you evolve and reach higher realm or world, or you become a very high being also, in even a Brahma also, still everything is cyclic and it will perish. Because even Brahma at the highest level, or third Logos at the highest level, or Mahat, is also in the realm of duality. Beyond that is where you need to reach. And anything in this whole zone or realm of manifestation is temporary. Then we go to the next shloka in Crest-Jewel number 22, which says that the peaceful state of the mind when it rests constantly upon the contemplation of the higher self, having after having and again detached itself from the chaos of sense objects through a process of continuous observation of their defects is called shama. So, shama is the quality which the spiritual aspirant needs to develop. So, for a man who repeatedly observes in the sense objects their defects, such as having a beginning and an end, the temporary nature, being manifold, leading to weariness, producing tastelessness, and so on and so forth, there arises detachment, vairagya, naturally. And that is what we want. We don't want to generate vairagya forcefully. We want to generate vairagya naturally. And thus, the perception of the defects of the sense objects in the man causes the real detachment. So, real detachment doesn't come by forcing yourself away from the physical world or sensual world or pleasures or pain. Real detachment comes with vichara, which is contemplation, thinking, chintanam. It comes with deep study and understanding of the true nature of what is real and what is unreal. What are the defects of this temporary physical world and senses and body and so on and so forth. When such a detachment is present, the mind then becomes firmly established in its own object, whether qualified, that is saguna, or unqualified, nirguna. That means the object of contemplation, whether it's with attributes or attributeless. Then the state of the mind remains steady, free from distraction, and without modification. Therefore, it is said the state of calmness, that is shama, in the form of mental steadiness, is only born of detachment, which is a natural process. So, the first among the six qualifications is shama, that is calmness of the mind. And remember that these qualifications need to be achieved in a sequential order. So the first is shama. This calmness descends upon the mind when it comes to rest in its meditations, free from agitations created by its continuous desires for sense objects. But when the mind is thus taken away from sense objects consciously, it cannot be actually relieved of its sense thoughts all at once because the vibrations and the fluctuations are already there for a long time. And the tendencies and the skandhas also are there. So it is the nature of the mind to entertain thoughts, and if it has nothing better to do, it will dwell on one or the other worldly objects. Unless we train the mind to revel in subtler and diviner thoughts, it cannot redeem itself from the field of ordinary thoughts and pursuits. So, in the next section in this context, we will also talk about bhakti, because in bhakti, the devotee employs or deploys his mind constantly in the meditation of his beloved Lord, that is the higher self. And therefore, the mind is automatically drawn away from its pursuits of the sense objects. And therefore, a continuous contemplation on the all pervading consciousness, that is, all pervading awareness, Atman, alone is um, uh, which helps the mind to completely detach itself. Now, a very important thing is there that when you are trying to detach from the worldly experience or interactions or inputs, where are you taking the mind? What is the process? So it's hinted that what is meant here is to take the mind to the heart center. Now, what is this heart center? So if we see, we have the seven bodies, upadhis or sheets. And if you take the Atman as the center of these concentric globes, which are mentioned here, we can think of a virtual vertical line which is going through all the sheets. This vertical virtual line you can think of as Hridaya. It's also referred to as Meru. This vertical line is actually the axis. So it is not the physical heart. The heart center would be this vertical line which is going through all the centers. So first you reach the inner point of your first sheath, and then the next sheath and the next sheath. Ultimately, you reach the center of all these spheres, which is the Atman, the Laya point. So generally what happens is that because of our tendencies and our nature, which we have developed over various lives, our consciousness goes outwards, sheath by sheath by sheath by sheath, and we are acting mostly on the physical and the astral and the manasic. So vikshepa happens. Vikshepa is projecting out into duality, and when we are projecting out into name and form and associating our thoughts with objects of senses, you are projecting your consciousness out and in the world of Maya and duality. What the shloka is guiding us to do is bring it slowly, step by step, sheath by sheath, back to the divine center, the Hridaya, and going inwards. So when you go inwards, you are reaching to the state of samadhi, which means that in this physical world, when you are interacting, there are three things: the seer, the seen, that is the object, and the faculty of cognition. So whenever we observe anything or think about anything, we or the I or the me is thinking about an object. So I am the seer, the object become the seen. And what is connecting the seer and the seen? There is this faculty or the capability to cognize, to perceive, to analyze, to comprehend. That cognitive capability is also required. So all these three in the Vedantic terms is known as a triputi, or uh, this seer is known as drik, and the scene is known as drishya. And there is a commentary provided by Shankaracharya on this topic also, known as drik drishya. So the idea is that when all these three, the seer, the scene, and the object, merges together, then you are going inwards to the Laya center or the Hridayam. And that's when a samadhi occurs. That means all three become one. It reaches the fused state or zero state or the null state or the substratum state, which is the Atman itself. So not only by keeping your mind continuously on these higher thoughts, we have to have that willpower to withdraw our mind from going out and bring it in. But this control or this withdrawal will not happen, is what is mentioned here, unless and until you have a calm mind. So first step is to achieve a calm mind. And only then what happens is that the mind, the antakarna, is actually the vrittis or the modulations or the fluctuations in the mind reduce, and then you have calmness. Once you have calmness, then with conscious effort, you can withdraw the mind. And we will also see the next sloka and then we'll pause. So here it says in the 23, steering both kinds of sense organs, that is of knowledge and action, away from their sense objects and placing them in their respective centers of activity is called dhamma or self-control. The best uparati or withdrawal is that condition of the thought waves in which they are free from the influences of external objects. So the idea goes, uh, to the same point which we discussed, how we are actually placing the mind on the higher things, and with knowledge we are bringing or withdrawing it. So the organs, the sense organs of knowledge and actions are also known as the jnanendriyas, that is sense organs, and karmendriyas, the actions, the organs of actions. So ultimately, we need to understand that how the mind also needs to be controlled. In this case, there is an interesting uh, shloka provided which says the charioteer is the buddhi, owner of the charioteer is the self, that is the Atman. Horses are the sense organs, roads are the sense objects, reins of the horses is the mind. So when the mind, that is, the reins are held firmly by the charioteer, that is the buddhi, only then the horses are well controlled. That is, the sense organs are controlled by the buddhi using the mind. So, viveka, discrimination from buddhi arising with analysis, understanding, contemplation, uses the mind with the willpower, uses the senses. Only then the chariot and the horses are controlled. Only such controlled horses run along the appropriate roads and reach the right destination. Similarly, with the mind well controlled in shama, that is, once you have achieved the calmness, the control of the senses become easy. Dhamma, and which is control of the senses, Dhamma, and hence sense objects do not torment the man anymore. So, friends, will pause here and take some thoughts, questions, and discuss further. Thank you.